the data that is needed. It will provide the data that is needed for the validation to work, and we just click this and you can see we've created a new user right here. We've created a new user that is now valid in the database, and if we check the database we can see we have that new user right here. So the problem right now is that this new user password is being, is just plain text in the database, so we need to fix that. So welcome back, and in this video we're going to be working on the authentication right now. So we're about to just get started with authenticating the user and encrypting the user's data in JWT. So the first thing we need to do is to install JWT. Nest has this installed, so you can just go ahead and do yarn add uh, NestJWT, and that will install the JWT that we need. The next thing is we need to have a Auth API. So I'm going to come here and create auth.api.service, and in this API is what we're going to be using to interact with the JWT service. So we're going to come here and export class, and this will be auth API. Okay, so right here we're going to inject the repository that we have earlier. So right here I'm just going to copy this, just to avoid typing the same thing all over again. I'm going to import all this, and right here the next thing is to have private read only, and this will be the JWT service, and this will take the normal JWT service that is coming from NestJWT. So now that we have that, we can now go ahead and create first of all let's create a function to encrypt that user's password. So we're going to have use the encrypt. So let me just go ahead and import. I think this service is default uh, from JavaScript. So this will be crypt JS. Okay, so I think we might need to install that service. Let me see. We might need to install that service differently. So let me go ahead and add that. So yarn add that. Okay, so we've installed that. The error should go away. So we've installed that right now, and yeah, so let's go ahead and create a function that will help us encrypt the user's password. So this will be a public function because we want to use it in other places. So this will be encode password. So this will be a encode password, and this should accept a password as a string. This should accept a password as a string. And the next thing we need to do is we can return a string. Okay, we also return a string, so we can use our sort, which is a type of string, equal to bcrypt dot get sort async. Okay, length of 10, and this just helps us encrypt our password hash sync, and we can pass the password and the sort that we want to use. So if you don't know anything about hashing or anything, just there are different ways to hash your password, but the reason why I chose this is that we can encode the password with this, and we can also decode the password when the user try to log in. So this is basically what we want, and right here if I should come here and in front of the password we can do code password. We need to inject the service, the auth service, into into this service. So let's do private. This will be read only, and we call it API, and this will be the Auth API. Okay, let's just give this a nice name so that we know which API we're working with, because at the end of the day we might want to have more than just one API in our application. So we can decide to just put both of them together, give it this some spacing, and we can do this dot auth dot encrypt password, and we pass the password into that. And basically what this now does is that if we create a new user right now, let's just go ahead and create a new user right now. If we go ahead and create a new user, if we should go ahead and create a new user right now, let's see, it's our service running. Yeah, Auth, we need to import that into our module. So in the providers, we can just put the Auth EPA inside our provider. So that's still not working. JWT service, are we putting the JWT service into our provider? Let me see. Yeah, we need to import our JWT service. We need to import that the JWT service, but for now let's just take this away. Let's just comment it out, and let's just try the encryption, the encoding that we did earlier. So let's go ahead and try it out, and we try and create a user now. A user already exists with that email, and if we do fin2 and save this, you can see the password is now encrypted right now, and this is exactly what we want. And if we should check our database, let's see, you can see this user password is encrypted. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete both users so that I can come here and do this, and this password I'm just going to leave it as password. Okay, and we do this, we've created that user. Fine. Now I don't like the way this response is being structured. So we can definitely structure our response to have similar structure. So instead of returning just a simple user right here, we can do it in a way that it's structured the way it should be structured. So we can go ahead and do some interface. So let's come here, and right here we can create interface. Let's just call it interfaces, yeah, because we might want to have another one. So in interface, we're going to have right here we're going to create a response interface. So this will be response dot interface dot ts. So this will be where we're structuring our where we're going to be structuring our response, how our response is going to be like. So this will be interface response. So this will take a dynamic and generic data type, data, and this will have a number, a status, and a message, and the message will be a string. So export type generic response. For the generic response that we have, the response that we don't have, let's say we don't have specific type for, we can just give it as an object. So yeah, so this is basically what we need to do. And right now, if I should come here and in my Auth controller, I can come ahead and use that response. But before that, let's just use this decorator, which is the use interceptor, and this is just going to use class sterilizer interceptor. So this is just going to intercept our request and apply those validation for us. And right here, we're going to return a promise and the I response that we created, and this should be, we want to return a defined user type. So let's just say user. Okay, so this is what we just need to return. And right here, you can go ahead and return a particular object, and we'll say message equal to user created successfully. And right here we give it a status code of, for that response we say http statuses, and we say created. Okay, we say created dot created. Okay, so the data will now be the user that we created. Fine. So this like the structure we'll be using to return our response. And right here, if I should come to, if we should check this right now and we try this, you can see we have a better structure for our response right now. So this is what we're going to be working with. And yeah, so let me just take that out and go back to our code. Yeah, so the next thing we need to do right now, let's just separate this so that we can have so that anyone can read the code very well. So we have this right now, and what we should be returning is that, what we should be doing is, when the user is creating an account, when we create the account, we should also be returning the user's token, the JWT and everything else. So yeah, so that's what we want to do right now. So right here we can just create a single entry point to this. We just do export all from yeah, so we just have a single entry point in case we have more than one thing that we want to do. And right here we just import that from interfaces. Okay, so the next thing we can do right now is to go back to our JWT service. We have the JWT service right now. Remember, this was giving us error the other time. That's because we've not inject that service. So let's go ahead and import that JWT service, and let's just do that real quick. So this will be JWT module.register async, and this will be, and we can put some basic configuration right here. So let's just inject the config service, because we need to interact with our env file. So let's just use factory, and we take that config service that we inject, and this will have a type of config service, and we basically return some configuration data. So this will be the secret, this will be config dot get, we can give it this a type of string or anything, string, and this will be JWT key. Okay, JWT key, and we can have this secret option, sign options, and we can set the expiry date to when we want this to actually expire. So this will be dot get, this is definitely a string, and this should be config, not config service, config. And right here we can have the JWT access expires. So we need to go ahead and create, is that all? String expires in this type using JWT async. I think there is an error somewhere right here. Let me just try and double check. Sign in option expires in could this be the problem? Could it be? Yeah, that's the problem. Let me see, is this a number? Oh, it's actually a number. Okay, so if we should go ahead and in our env file we can go ahead and fix that. So let's go ahead and say JWT access, we want it to expire every two hours, and right here for the JW key we can just have authentication underscore service. So this is all we need to do. Let's say we're still getting error, so we're not getting any error in our usage for that JWT right here. Okay, so we need to create some methods in our helper class. We need to create some method, and this method is what we're going to be helping us to achieve some of the things that we want to achieve. Number one is we need to create a method that will help us decode whatever value we have in our JWT. So this will be async, and we just call it decode. And right here we're going to have token. Any token that the user have, we need to also decode. We need to decode those tokens. For now, we don't know what's going to be returned from that operation. So this will return JWT service dot decode, and we're going to decode the token. Okay, so the second function we need to do is we need to validate each user. So this is public async. You need to validate each user. So that's basically any decoded, any value that is being passed here, we need to get that user from the user service. Okay, don't forget we should import the user service right here. So this will be the user service. Don't we have a user service? We don't have a user service yet. So let's quickly create a user service. So we call this user.service.ts, and right here let's just import it as part of the provider for the user module. So this will be user service. Okay, so right here we need to quickly build our user service. So let's do export class, and this will be user service. And right here we can do import the user's repository. So we say private read only, and we can do user repository, and this should be type of repository, and this should be type of user. Okay, so we need to use at inject repository, and this will be user. Okay, so yeah, this is what we need to do. Let's just quickly create an async function that public async get user. We can say okay, get user is okay. Right now we can just return this dot user repository dot find one. We can find by id, which is a string. Okay, so we can find this by id, which is a string, and right here we just say where id is equal to the id that is being passed where id, okay, go to id. Let's just await this, await id. What's the issue? Await this. Meanwhile, we are returning promise here, and the promise will be type of user. Okay, this user repository find one. What could be the issue? Yeah, this should be, let's put this in a constructor. This should be in a constructor, and let's see that okay. And the id is a string now. The id is a string. Let's check it again. The id is a string, not something else. The id is a string. Okay, the id is a string, and if we don't have user, if user is not true, we just throw new not found exception. Okay, we just say user is not found. Okay, we just do something like this and we return user right here. Okay, so this is all we need to do to get the user, and right here we can inject that user service, call this user service. So let's just confirm everything works fine, and right here user service, let's import that. Let's just import C. So auth module is user service is in auth module. Oh yeah, that's true. Let's quickly import the users module. So user module right here. So let's check that again. We have another error. Auth module user service is a provider in the auth module. Okay, what does that mean? We already have the user module. Let's just go ahead and export this service so that we can use it somewhere else. So user service, let's see that. Yeah, so that has compiled successfully, and so let's go back to our helper class that we're building. So we have the user service right here. So we need to okay, Okay, we need to do some things. First of all, we need to um, let's just close this right now. So right now we need to validate the password that we're encrypting. So is password valid? uh, we take the password string and the user typed password and the type password the users type. So we're going to compare the two together so that we can check. So we return bcrypt dot compare sync, and we compare both password. If we have a match, yeah, then the user password is correct. So we have that. The next thing we want to do is we can generate let's go ahead and generate we go ahead and generate a token for that user. We can generate a token for that user, and we can also um, validate that token. So let's go ahead and generate token, and that will take a user with a type of user. Okay, so this should go ahead and public async generate user generate token. So let's do constant access token. Okay, access token equal to this dot JWT service dot sign. And what do we want to sign? We want to put the ID to be user dot ID. I want to put the email of the user into that, that long JWT token. Yeah, user dot email. So we have constant. We need to also generate a refresh token too. So refresh token equal to the same thing dot JWT service dot sign. I'm going to sign that too. And right here we want to sign the same thing for the refresh token, and right here we're going to give it an expire at, so that once it's expired, so we're going to say expires. Let's see. Okay, so expires. So this one should expire in one single day. The refresh token will expire in a day, while the access token expires in 2 hours. So we're going to return all this together, and we're going to say token equal to access token refresh token, and we're also going to pass the user right there. Okay, and this is all we need to do. And for this return type, we can just come here and create like a simple like a type, a single type. So we can call this type.ts. Let's just call it auth type, auth.type.ts. So we from here we can export type, and this will be user with token. user and token. The token will be, remember, right here we have the access token and the refresh token. So the access token is a string, while the refresh token is also a string. So we also have that. So have that as a string, and this should be equal to, because we're using a type. Okay, so right now we can just make the return type for this function to be a promise, and the promise will be users with token. Okay. Let's see. Okay, it's not a promise actually. Okay, so we have the generate token. Right now the next thing we can do is to create a function that will help us. We need to create like 2, or let's say 3 more functions. So the next one is to validate. We need to validate that token. So when someone is making a request, we're getting the token and we need to validate that token. So let's go and do async validate, and this will be token string. So we need to validate the token that the user is sending. So this is promise, and this will return a boolean, or it never returns anything, and we can throw an exception. That's what it means. So we can do constant decode decoded user. This is the decoded user equal to so we need to decode the token from this .jwt service verify that token. Okay, so we make sure the token is still valid, and if the token is not valid first, because we need to get the user from that token, so we throw an error, throw new bad request error. So we just say invalid token. That's simple as it can get, and right here we can now get the user, and we just do await. Remember, we created the user function in the user service the other time, get user, and we pass the what? We pass the decoded token to that user, which is the what? The ID. If you remember, we're setting the ID. So let's go ahead and return user. Okay. Okay, well, we don't return user, we just say if, because we need to return boolean here, if user is not true. Okay, let's just go ahead and throw new unauthorized exception. Okay, so else we just return true. So we validating, we're not returning the user. So that's the validating, and the next function that we need to build right now is to build the ability to retrieve a user from a token. So this will be async get user from token, and right here so get user from token, we take the token string, and first of all we do the same thing. We validate that token first. We check if the token is valid, and we retrieve that user. Okay, the first one we were returning a boolean, but this time we want to return a user. Okay, so right now we can do promise. We're returning a user. Okay, so this is everything we need. If there is anything else that we need, we can definitely come back and add it. So that's it. And the next thing we cannot do right now is to build a strategy for a auth plan. Okay, a auth plan that we want to use. So let's go ahead and build the auth strategy. Auth strategy. Okay, so right now what we're going to do right now, we need to make this injectable. Okay, we need to make this injectable so that we can inject it into other classes. So right now we can export that class, and we call this JWT strategy. So JWT strategy, we extend the passport strategy. So we need to import. So we need to install JWT passport. So let's just go ahead and add that. So this will be at NestJS /passport. Okay, so let's go ahead and install that. So we've installed that. We can then go ahead and implement extend from that class. Okay, strategy. Okay, let me import that, and this should be passport, and this is strategy. Okay, what else we need to constructor. We need to inject that API that we created. So this will be read only API, go to auth API. Okay, it's not called, it's called in super. What does that mean? We don't need super. Okay, that's true. We can't use the constructor. We definitely using the constructor, and let's just go ahead and inject private read only config, go to config service. Okay, okay, so right here we need to implement the API, the super we need to implement that, and we can do JWT from request. we extract the JWT from there. JWT dot there's still one package that we need to install, which is passport JWT, and this will let our JWT passport interact with the passport. So let's go ahead and import that. Yeah, we've installed that now, and let's go and import that. Let's see. Why is it not working? Let me check. Have we installed it? Let me check. Let's manually import that and see. Let's manually import that. Passport JWT. Okay. So extract JWT. These two, we need to import it from there. Yeah, we need to import that from Auth with barrier token. Okay, and this will be secret key. Secret. Ignore expiration, and this to be false. So if we set this to true, once the token expire, we won't be able to once the token, if we set this ignore expiration to true, once the token expire, users can still log in with that token. So we need to set it to false, so that once any token expires, users cannot use that token. So this is a type of string, and we just start getting the JWT key. Remember the key that we used to sign those applications. So if we were unable to get that secret, we just want to throw an error. So we can say throw new bad request exception, and we just say JWT key is not set. Okay, and that's everything that we need to do. And right here we just need this actually an object. Yeah, so yeah, this is everything we need to do. Let's just quickly do one function right here before we leave this method. So this is async validate, and this will be payload any, and right here we need to return a promise, and right here it's going to be a user, and we can return this dot helper dot validate. Let me check. And let's use user service instead, because we need to get that user right there. So this should be user service. This user service dot find dot get user. So we pass that payload to that, and yeah. So this return a, let's just wait for this. Wait. Okay, let's import that. Yeah, so basically this is all we need to do. We still need to actually use this that we've created. So let's go ahead in our users module, auth module rather. We need to import those JWT API that we created. So this should be JWT this. Okay, that makes sense. Is that all we need to do? We need to actually create, yeah, let's go ahead and test that out. So in our auth service we need to generate token for the user. So return this dot auth API dot generate token, and right here let's just pass the user. Okay, so this will be user with token, and we need to also change this return type with token. So let's see if that should work. What's the problem? Cannot find. Let's refresh and see. We have an error. Cannot find module passports. Okay, so let me see where the error might be coming from. Since the error is coming from this page, let me see. Okay, so let's just take this outside. Okay, let's try something different. Inject, because this is not seeing the config service. So let me just inject the config service directly. Yeah, so that is seeing it now. Let me see. It can still not find. Unable to find passport. Could that be an issue with okay, maybe let's see. let's see. Yeah, we need to import the passport module. Okay, so this passport module dot register. We need to register some. So default try TG is JWT and property of user. Okay, so let's try that now. Still cannot find passport. Find module passport. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's create the auth guard, the auth dot guard dot ts. Let me confirm this first. Okay, we're not injecting that injectable. Let's see. Okay, the error is still there. Okay, let's quickly create our auth guard and see if we still have that error. So at injectable, let's export class JWT auth guard extends auth guard, and this will be JWT, and let's just implement iauth guard. Okay, extends let's import this from passport and let's do public and do request and do request error user. So if we don't find our user, we just throw new forbidden exception. Okay, that means the user cannot return the user. Okay, public. So we want to now we'll put this guard that we create now, we put it in front of each endpoint that requires the user to be authenticated before they can use, and this can activate is like a gate that NestJS use to execute actions. So this execute context, and this will return a promise, and this will be a boolean. So if users can have the right key, then they can move forward with their request. If not, the service, the guy just tell them, oh, you need to have a valid valid request to be able to access those resources. So this request will be coming from NestJS Express.js. So that request will be coming from Express.js, and user equal to the request.user. Okay, and if we don't have the user, we want to just return false, else we just return true. Okay, and this is just what we need to do right here. So we have an error right now, so let's just go ahead and define a general type for our NestJS request user, because that's what's causing the error. So we call these types, and right here our express request user, so we call it express.d.ts, and right here we declare the module express, and we give it an declare module, and we give it an interface request user. We have a type of user. Okay, and yeah, so that's it. You can see the error is gone, and yeah, we have JWT Auth right now. But we're still having a problem which says cannot find module passport auth. So let me quickly check online what the error could be. Okay, it seems that we need to install this passport package. Let me see. Yeah, we need to install that passport package. Let's try this now. Yeah, that has finished. That has now finished compiling. So let's go ahead and check that out. Let's create a new user. An email already exists. Let's create a new user, and right now you can see we have the tokens available. So next one is we need to test our auth. We need to test our auth guide that we built, this auth guide. So let's quickly create a different endpoint. Let's create a different endpoint. And right here we can say auth get. This will be a get, and we do user. Okay, so after that we can do HTTP status. If we want to return a certain type of status dot okay, so we want to return okay, and right here we use guards. We use the JWT guard that we created. So only authenticated users can access these routes now. So async user, we use our user decorator, request decorator request, and this will be a type of request from express. And right here what we're returning a promise, and this will be a high response right here, and right here we just put in the user into that. Okay, and right now let's just import this. let's see, HTTP code. Okay, so let's go ahead and say constant user equal to request dot user. Okay, and right now we can now return the user. Okay, message equal to user fetch successfully. And right now we do the status to be HTTP status to be okay, and right here data we put in that user right there. So that's it. And if we come here now in our collections, we can go ahead in our collections right here. Let me see, the folder is down but let me close others. First close. So we can create another endpoint. Right here we create a new request. Let me bring this folder up. Let me bring it up. Auth service. Okay, so this is now up now. Auth service, and right here we can call this get user. Okay, so the same endpoint, we have the same endpoint, just that this will be the user now. And if you check here now, you see forbidden. That means the user is forbidden to access that route. But as soon as we come here, let's create another user. I lost that key. But as soon as we come here and copy that token, and we just put it in the authorization barrier token, we do this, that's still not authenticating our user. Let me see what the problem could be. JWT Auth, yes, we're using JWT Auth. What request? We're getting a forbidden request. Let me do console.log on user and see that, and let's see that. Let's send this, and the user is undefined. Let's come to our strategy, and let's try and console.log testing. Let's see if we're getting to this point. Yeah, we're getting here, but are we getting that user? That's the problem. Are we getting that user? So I'm going to come here and do console.log on user. Okay, are we getting that user? That's the problem. So we do this, come back, we're getting null as the user. That's wonderful. So console.log on id, and let's see that. So this is just showing id. That's what's being passed directly. Okay, so it should be id dot id. Okay, it should be id dot id, because we're passing an object to that. So we don't want this to interact directly with with our user service. So let's put it in our helper service, helper auth helper service, rather auth helper. Let's put this in our helper, and right here we need to create in our helper we need to create a different method that will help us validate the user. So we call it validate user, and this will return a decode. This will take a decode of type of any, and we can do promise dot user. Okay, so this is what we can do. Const user equal to await this dot, or we can just come here and do payload dot user. Simple as that. We can do payload dot user. We don't need to stress ourselves. I swear, we don't need to stress ourselves. We can do payload dot user dot id rather. Let's just back this. We can do this, and we should go again. Hopefully that works. So you can see we're now getting the users data from the database directly. So with using this token, we are able to get our user. So the next step would be to build the login page, so that we have the login page, and basically that will be all for this tutorial series. So I'll see you in next video.